Hey everyone, and it's time for the Terminator takes RoboCop. Now, like a few crossovers, these two did. That's right, they did cross over in a SNES and Sega game called RoboCop vs. Terminator. Here's the proof. And would you know it, they crossed over again in Mortal Kombat. Fight! Oh my gosh. And would you know that RoboCop was in WCW? It was a really bad event, one of the worst pay-per-views. They brought in RoboCop, played by a stuntman. It was promotion for RoboCop 2, a pretty good sequel, better than 3, and 3 is better than the remake. But the costume was falling apart. WCW had certain rules. RoboCop was meant to save Sting from a cage. It was dumb. And then, in 2015, the Terminator, mainly Arnie, was at WrestleMania. So he did a promo as the Terminator saying, "Get the new game and make me the world champion." So you could be the classic Terminator from T2 or the original. And then people had all these core codes and ways to make the Terminator in other wrestling games. You could make him in WWE Raw 2 and a few of the SmackDown vs. Raw games. And also in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, you can make the Terminator. In fact, you can make so many guests. Street Fighter characters, you can make like 20. Ninja Turtles, Masters of the Universe. But yeah, you can make the Terminator in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, and then the Terminator ends up a guest in Mortal Kombat Armageddon 11. If that's not seeing the future, I don't know what it is. Because the Terminator is from the future, RoboCop set in a future world, and both films were distributed by Orion Pictures. Now, when RoboCop had his trailer, they used the Terminator theme. So they were properties of the same studio. So they crossed over when RoboCop had his trailer. It was RoboCop doing his action, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me." And he was doing all that to the Terminator theme. The first crossover for these two Titan cybernetic robot guys. Like, the Terminator isn't really a cyborg because he can still operate after the flesh is gone, but RoboCop is, because he eats that stuff to keep his genetics intact. And like later on, Carl, who doesn't lose all his flesh, though. No, he does. I can't remember much of Dark Fate of Genesis. They're terrible. But yeah, I think it's Pops. He just loses his arm, and up until the end he gets a revamped. I think that's the only time he's been full cyborg, but the rest of the times he hasn't been. But it doesn't matter. The Terminator is awesome. And happy to have our special guest. Yeah, RoboCop couldn't make it. He's trapped in Delta City. Oh, he's gone. So, they crossed over. Now, RoboCop is awesome. It's directed by Paul Verhoeven, and I'm following up this crossover with the Paul Verhoeven special. So, you got the cartoon series of RoboCop. You will have an animated Terminator film. And I want to say something else, because this is leading up to our Mortal Mondays. All throughout November is going to be Mortal Kombat. 4 Mondays, all Mortal Kombat. Every live action version of the characters. As many as I can put in. So, the Terminator obviously was the influence for Kano. Because of the corner of his face. And also there's words saying he was inspired by Phantom of the Opera as well. So, yeah, the Terminator, you can make him Mortal Kombat, and then he ends up a guest as Mortal Kombat, and he influenced one of the best characters of Mortal Kombat. But, here's another thing. In the Terminator, when he arrives, he rips the heart out of one of the punks. Now, Temple of Doom was out in 1984, and that had the heart rip. So, you had Mola Ram taking the heart, and then you had the T-800 taking out the heart. Now, that punk was Brian Thompson. He played Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So the Terminator has a lot to do with Mortal Kombat. So they've crossed over a lot. So I will have the originators of some Mortal Kombat characters in my Mortal Mondays. So when I talk about Kano, I will have the Terminator as a rank. Because he is the reason Kano exists. Now, what about love for RoboCop? Well, he's been a pop culture phenomenon for years. You know, he had that pretty good sequel, then he had a not so good sequel, then he had a live action TV series, which could have been the 4th sequel. Then he had lots of toys. You know, they had the darter stick you could pull out from his fist, which was awesome. You had RoboCops with buttons, and it said quotes from the movies. Of course, we got that remake. It was meant to get a follow-up, but we didn't. They should have kept him in that first suit instead of that all black shit. Yeah, RoboCop versus Ed 209. Awesome stop motion. And yeah, Ed is in the RoboCop vs. Terminator game. And then, of course, he fights the endoskeletons as well. And those comics. So, yeah, these two, they've had probably the most crossover action in this whole series. You know, they crossed over in the RoboCop trailer. They crossed over in their game. They had their comics. They crossed over in Mortal Kombat. And a number of wrestling games. I've got all the proof. Watch this. See? Gosh. Well, I'm not sure what else I can say. But yeah, the Terminator and RoboCop, seriously tough. Um, you already know about Alien vs Predator. I don't have to go there. You know about it. It happened. You know about Freddy vs Jason. You know about Godzilla vs Kong. That's already been done. But the bulk of this series is what could be if they did, and then finding out the surprise that they did. That's what makes this good. You may want Alien vs Predator, Freddy vs Jason, Godzilla vs Kong. For you, I will do it. But that's later, because I've got Mortal Mondays coming up. I've got the Paul Verhoeven coming up, and the captain's going to take you for a cruise with the ship vs ship films. I'll scare you later.